Hi, this is Barry Midgordon, Vice President of the Mountain View Computer Users Group, and this is the iOS tip for April 12th, 2025. New feature in iOS 18.4, iPadOS 18.4 as well, new feature called ambient music. Let me mirror my iPad to my screen here so you can see what I'm doing. This is my home screen. And ambient music is one of a number of things added to iOS 18.4. There were some new emoji, some new Apple Intelligence progressive features, I think. Some bugs were squashed, some security updates applied. But Apple Music was a feature that was added to the control panel on iOS. This applies to the iPhone and iPad, depending on what device you have. And you get to the control panel by swiping down from the top right corner of the screen. So here's my touch cursor. I'm going to swipe from the top right. This brings up the control panel. Now, the control panel has several pages to it, depending on what controls are available to or what have been put in, either you or by default. The top one is the favorites. That's why it has a heart. There's a audio page. It's a big now playing widget. There's a home control page for home automation, which I don't have anything except for my Apple TV on there, and a communications or radio section. Has your Bluetooth, AirDrop, Wi-Fi, airplane mode, so forth. So let's concentrate on the favorite section. And to customize, you can tap and hold on any blank area of the screen below the control center, and you get a customization control. So you can subtract an item if you don't want it anymore on your control center. And there's a button at the bottom here, add a control. Tap on that and you get a sheet in the middle of your screen with controls you can add. So alarm clock, timers, magnifying. These are some basic features of the system you can add here. And the next section down is a new section. These are in alphabetical order, by the way, called ambient music. It wouldn't have been here before iOS 18.4. So if you haven't updated your operating system, you won't see this. There are 4 ambient music controls. One for sleep, one for chill, one for productivity, and one for well-being. Each of the 4 controls gives you access to 4 different playlists, ambient music playlists. Now this ambient music is, soft, kind of background, no lyrics, so forth, so that it's, kind of bringing you some ambiance. Anyway, you have 4 playlists in each to choose from, so 16 playlists total. Sleep, of course, is music to help you go to sleep by. Chill are playlists for relaxation. Productivity gives you playlists for focusing on a task. And well-being is playlists of music for meditation, yoga practice, things of that nature. To add them to your controls, to your favorites, or whatever you have selected on the right-hand edge, you click on one and it puts it into your list here. You notice there's these empty slots here. You can add more to your control panel. I'm going to show you can drag this and make it a bigger option, and it shows you the name of the icon. If the Z is coming off the music note isn't enough of a clue, you can enlarge it and you can see. And if you are playing music, it'll give the title of the playlists that it's playing from here. You'll notice in the top right of my favorites, I do have a now playing widget. That's just a general now playing. Whatever audio might be playing on your device is what will show up there. So I tapped on a blank area to get out of editing mode, and you tap on the control to start it. It highlights and it connects to Apple server and it starts playing music. Now you probably can't hear it, it's not very loud, and oh, there it goes. Maybe you can hear that, I don't know. We'll see when I stop the recording and play it back. But this isn't like a play pause. Well, it just tells you that it's playing instead of not playing. So if you tap on it again, it's pauses it, stops it. You can do the same thing with the play button up at the top. You have two ways of controlling the play or the pause, either the now playing widget if you have it in your favorites, or the ambient music widget. I'm going to go back into editing mode here, and I'm going to close this up to a single dot, and I'm going to add another one. There we go. I'll go ahead and add that one. Unfortunately, you can't select more than one at a time, but I'll go back and forth and I'll add all four here. There we go. And while it's in editing mode, if you tap on one, you will get some options. It shows you the current playlist in a button here. And if you click on the blue playlist title, you get a pop-up that allows you to choose from the 4 playlists for this ambient music item, in this case sleep. So these are 4 playlists you have to choose from. These are the defaults from Apple, and I must say that these are the defaults based on whether you have an Apple Music subscription or not. I do have an Apple Music subscription. These are playlists that I can get to and play just in my Apple Music app if I want to. Because I have an Apple Music subscription, I get an added feature called From Library. So I could tap that and then pick from my library. And if I created my own sleep playlist, I could find it in my Apple Music library and choose it. I'm going to cancel out of that for now. So I'm going to go back and I'll choose, how about Sound Bath? That sounds fun. And then click off and goes back to the main editing. So you can do that with each of these. Well-being, pure meditation. I could choose a different one, pure calm. For productivity, beatstrumentals, whatever that means. How about instead I go to my library and I choose the Beatles. How about the Beatles 2009 playlist that I have? That's the 2009 box set, what do they call it? Refurbished or remixed. Anyway, so I can work to the Beatles instead of something without lyrics. Maybe I'll change that later, who knows. Anyway, so each of these can be customized. If you don't have Apple Music subscription, you won't have the From Library option, and the 4 default lists for each of these 4 different ambiance controls will be different than what you see here on mine. They will be some default lists that you can choose from. You'll have 4 in each one. However, there are special lists that I suppose Apple has you know, licensed just for somebody that isn't paying. They're footing the bill for you. However, it's unfortunate you don't get to pick from your own music, even if you have music on your device, but that's the way it is. At least you have some choices, and you're not completely blocked out if you don't have an Apple Music subscription. So let's pick, what is it going to play if I play the Beatles, I wonder. Get back.
Rosetta.
There we go. Getting ready to do a task. However, probably ought to stop it before it gets on YouTube. And that is Apple Music, or Apple ambient music in the control panel, control center for iOS 18.4 and iPadOS 18.4.
Okay, let's start up again. Okay, folks, the break is over. If you turned your cell phones on, please turn them off again. I'd appreciate that very much. And let's move right along to today's topics. How to get the most out of your videos on your phone. This is all about videography on your phones. Now, I'm going to be using my iPhone. You'll find very similar features on all current smartphones. If I come across a feature that I know is not available, I'll let you know. Okay? So, first, what is going to be covered? These are the topics: planning your video, understanding your phone's video camera, recording high quality videos, editing videos on your phone, and sharing videos with family and friends. That's what we're going to talk about. So, moving right along, understanding your phone's video camera. Okay? I'm going to show you the basic camera functions, opening the camera app, switching between photo and video. Okay. So what I want to see something. Yeah. And then we're going to talk about basic camera functions. I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to change the way I'm doing this. Okay. Okay. Basic camera functions and the video settings. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come out of here. I'm going to go into mirroring mode. I hope. There we go. So I'm on my iPhone right now, and I'm going to go to my camera icon, click on the camera icon, and now you see down here the row at the very bottom to get to video production. And notice what happens. This is in the photo mode. Oh, that's because I forgot to change that. Okay. I don't want. Ah. There we go. Okay. So I'm in the video mode right now. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay. In the video mode. Now, notice at the top of the screen, I got a bar of things. One is the flash icon. For video, it is turned off. And now it's turned on, you get constant light. Don't do that. Okay. You end up with a lot of wasted battery, and the distance of the light is not enough to really affect video. The next button is your exposure compensation. Now, one thing I'm going to tell you right now, you see so many people doing videos like this. No. That is the way you do video. Horizontal.
Unless you're producing for TikTok.
If you're producing for TikTok, there's the door. Okay. Now, that next little button right there, if I click on it, that little, the 0.0, that's your exposure compensation.
Now, we don't have that. Does it have to do with the fact that you have ProRes on? Because
No, that's a standard. That's standard. You don't have the row of buttons up at the top.
no, we don't have the exposure. I have an activity button, action mode button, and then on the right hand side it just says what.
Do you have the down arrow up at the top?
No, it has the time code at the top middle.
Really?
Yeah, that's the default view of the camera.
That's because I have a Pro Max. That's the difference.
Really?
You should have it. I now have exposure compensation. When I turn that on, I can select my cameras. There it is. Down, I couldn't see it. I can either give more exposure or less exposure. I'm going to set it back to 0. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I can lock exposure or lock focal point. See? Right, exactly. Now, the next one is ProRes HDR, on or off. If you have ProRes HDR on your phone, if you see that, I recommend you turn it off unless you're a pro. Why? It is a very high definition, very long, very big files. Okay, you see how it says max time? With ProRes HDR, my max time is only 26 minutes. If I turn it off, my max time goes to hours. Now, the next little button you see is a drop-down menu that when I click on that, it brings up my controls down at the bottom. And I can control exposure. I can control zoom for each of the separate cameras. Each of these buttons on the 16 Pro Max is a different lens. So I can go up to 5 times. I want video. I'm getting to that. Okay. The next button I have here looks like a guy walking. That's the action mode. The action mode is Apple's term for stabilization. If you are walking, running, lots of movement, if you turn on stabilization, the video will be perfectly stable. And I'll be showing you examples of all this. Now we come to they've changed this on your phones. You'll see 4K, 2.8K in HD, high definition. On mine, I cannot get 4K in the regular video mode. I have to go to another mode called cinematic to get 4K. I can switch between HD and 28 frames per second. I can select 30, 60, or 24. And
and I found where that exposure control shows up in the top thing.
you found it?
Yeah. You know, it's the center arrow that.
Oh yeah, that's why.
But you have to select it in the bottom. You have to select the exposure control button at the bottom, and then it shows up there.
Okay, because now it's there all the
But you
time.
have it probably set so that your camera comes back the way it was for the time that you've used it before.
Well,
Because that's another setting. You can have your camera remember exactly what you left it as and come back
yeah.
that way, or you can have it come back just at a default
So what we're
state.
going to do is go to camera and setting. In camera, this is new in 18.5. I can change the way the controls of the camera work. But we're looking about video right now. So under record video, I can set my default to any one of these. 720, 1080, 1080 60 frames per second, 1080 at 120 frames per second, 4, 4K, and I default to 30 frames per second. 24 frames per second is the old film standard. 30 frames per second is the TV standard, which is actually 29.97. Okay. I can switch to PAL formats. Auto frames per second. I can lock the camera, lock white balance. So these are the things. Now, what I recommend for people to do for the normal amateur, 1080 at 30 frames per second. That will give you hours of recording, even on a very limited phone. The higher you go in the resolution, the more it's going to take. Now, why would I want to use a higher resolution like 4K? Do I have a 4K TV set? No. Well, the reason is for editing. If I'm going to play back at 1080p and I have my video at 4K, that means I can zoom in on the video 4 times and it'll look the same as a 1080. So that way I don't have to worry about camera control. And when we get to this, you'll see what I'm talking about. I don't have to zoom when I'm taking the video. I can do the zooming after the fact. Anybody, is everyone still with me? Okay, good. So let's go back. This is the most important part of this entire presentation. This is what most people don't do when they do video. Think about what you're going to be doing. Plan your video. What are you trying to convey? Then when you go out and start shooting, you have an idea of what you should shoot, what you shouldn't shoot. Most people don't do that. Video lets you tell a dynamic story. I love video. Of course, I love still too. Use the rule of composition. It's the rule of thirds. Is there anyone who doesn't know the rule of the rule of thirds? Don't know? Okay, what you do is you take your scene and you divide up in thirds, either horizontally or vertically. And you always put your subject in 2/3 of the frame, or either right hand side, or left hand side 2/3, or you can put the subject in the 1/3 and empty to looking out. Like if you're doing composition of mountains, you want the mountains to be in the bottom 2/3 and the sky to be in the top third. Unless it's a sunset. In a sunset, you'll have the sky in 2/3 and the mountains in 1/3. It's a very basic explanation of the rule of thirds. It makes a huge difference. Yeah, Barry?
And the camera settings give you some composition settings. You can turn on you can turn on a rule of thirds guides so that you see it when you're viewing, when you're looking
Where do
through
you
the
see
camera.
that at?
Yeah, there's a composition section under,
Oh,
and you can turn on grid and also a level so that you know that you're holding your iPhone level to.
yeah, let me
So, and
show
you
that.
can see the actual 2/3 grid, or the rule of thirds grid. It divides it into 9 sections.
That's down here under composition.
Yeah,
You have
and
the
yours is
grid
on.
and level. And I'm going to go back into the camera. Okay. And here you can see the grids. Third, third, third. Okay, you see that? And then you can see, and it's very faint, is there's a line in the middle that tells me when I'm horizontal. When it turns yellow, that means I'm level. If I go off level, it turns white. That is invaluable when you're out
Especially for
recording.
landscapes, because,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Well, let me show you the reason I use an iPhone. Let's go over to panoramic. Okay. Look at the screen. That's built in. And you just follow it along when you start the recording. You just keep it in the center. Now, by the way, panoramic mode, as I call it, super wide angle. Because the limitations, we can't change lenses. If you need a super wide angle shot, you go into panoramic mode. And I have gotten entire horizons. Pano is a great mode. I love the Pano mode. Okay, let's go back to the camera. And you can see back to video. There we go. And if I'm off of level, it shows it. You may not be able to see it that easily on the screen, but in real life, and I use that, especially when I'm on my tripod, because it tells me when I'm off balance. When you're
You can
level,
tilt for dramatic effect on purpose.
oh yeah. What I wish it would do, and Blackmagic does this, is gives me the degrees off on a tilt. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's another app.
Blackmagic is a company that creates software, video software. They're a video giant. Almost, I say 50% of the industry uses one of their cameras. They have an app for the iPhone that is for the professional, and it's amazing. I mean, they've thought of everything. Like, I can hold my phone like this, and it says, "You're an idiot. That's not the way it's supposed to be." And it'll take it horizontal. So I can hold my phone like this.
It'll make a video.
And do it. I have all my controls being shown. It's amazing. That's what I normally use shooting video now. Okay. So, oh, you see this little warning, more light required? Forget it. Okay.
Well, that's for
The iPhones are so good in low light situations that as long as you can see the image, it'll capture it. It does a very, very good job of it. So
but that's because you have action mode set turned on.
no.
Yeah, because when you turn it off, it doesn't say more light required.
Oh, that's right. It's for stabilization. I'm sorry. Thank you, Barry, for reminding me. Yeah, action mode requires more light, sort of. It works. My guess is yes, it does. I can't prove it because the ISO set automatically. Yeah. Now the other thing that you should do that most people don't do is shoot short clips. In video production, if you watch on television movies, take a look at scenes. How long is a scene before they change it? The general rule of thumb is 3 to 5 seconds, no longer than 10. Now, are there exceptions to that rule? Occasionally. Like the greatest example I can think of is Barry Lyndon. Have any of you seen Barry Lyndon? Good, you're lucky. Terrible movie. However, there is one scene when they're turning their heads very slowly, and it lasts for 37 seconds of just watching. First, the guy turns his head. Then they go to the gal, and she turns her head. And I was sitting there in the theater, so my God, what are they doing? Jane almost got up and left. So Short clips, keep your clips to 30 seconds, because what you're going to do is go in and grab from those short clips to make your final. And that's exactly what you do in video editing. Is that you go in and grab sections to put your video together. So my recommendation is 30 seconds. Now, are there exceptions to that? Well, yeah, but not very often. If you're recording a demonstration of something, you just leave it and let it rip, because there's not going to be cuts. Your final shots should be between 3 and 5 seconds, but no longer than 10. That's why I like to keep mine too. That's the industry standard. And if you start watching videos, especially, watch YouTube videos versus professional videos, and you'll see the difference. That's why YouTube videos get so boring sometimes. It's just constant and there's no change. So it's okay to overshoot. Shoot as much video as you think you're going to need, and then shoot a little bit more. It's better to have too much than say, oh, geez, I wish I would have gotten X. And you didn't. Unlike in still photography, where we say don't overshoot, plan your shots. In video, we say the exact opposite. Shoot more, but make sure what you're shooting is something that's usable. Okay? Shooting video of your feet walking is, unless that's what you're trying to show, or just, I see lots of people just holding their camera, walking around shooting video. Why? Okay. A-roll and B-roll. What are they? Okay. Right now, you see me on the screen talking. If I were making a video of this, I would have clips demonstrating what I'm talking about showing up with my voice over it. The stuff that's showing up over my voice is called B-roll. Or B-roll is additional video other than your main video they use to enhance or emphasize something. Yeah, Norman, you see that right now what my head, okay, that's automatic chroma keying done yeah. And you see that you can even see through the wisp of my hair. That's how good this is. I have not seen any chroma keying software that even comes close. And I don't know how Apple's doing it. It's just amazing. Okay. Get your primary video and shoot other things. Like if you're making a short video of introducing a store, you can have people walking into the store while you have somebody talking about it. You can show people walking to the gate of a zoo when you're doing narration about what you're doing. So if you plan what you're doing, you can end up making some really cool videos. Now, there are exceptions. Like when I did one of the biggest videos I put on YouTube, has the most views, and it's right now up in the tens of thousands, is I'm at Disney World. I went on the last day, the last time.
Song of the South?
Song of the South, that ride happened. And I videoed the entire ride, going through the whole thing. And I posted that on YouTube. And yeah, I just held the camera right in front of me the whole time. And I would move the camera to pick up the stuff as we were going past it and bringing it back. And we'll talk about doing that. And I posted that. So it was one video, one take. And last time I checked, there's over 14,000 views on it.
Talking about clips, and I can't remember what service it's on. It's either Netflix or it might be Apple TV Plus. I can't remember now, but there's some series, fairly new TV series, and their whole thing is each episode is one long take. They do the entire thing. I think they're only like 30-minute episodes or something, but it's just one camera take for the whole thing. It's like, for the actors, it's like performing live on stage, because they got to have a whole thing rehearsed and memorized for the whole, but the camera's moving around and all that stuff too. So it's,
Well, that brings up an interesting point before we get to this. My wife, and I got into a big argument about actors, stage actors versus film actors. And she says that, stage actors are always better because they don't flip up their parts. But video actors, they get to do it over and over and over again. I said, well, you're missing the point on something. That in film, in video, you do it until it is absolutely right. And then that's why you have take after take after take. It's not that they don't know their lines, but let's say a line doesn't work. They'll do a rewrite and we'll redo it. On stage, it doesn't work that way. If you flub up a line, they just continue to go. And that's happened on many occasions. And after you've done a play for 1,000 times, you're going to know your lines. So it looks like, stage actors are far better. No, it's two totally different venues.
and on stage, it's the actor's performance that's presented,
Mhm.
and a film is the director's vision. And so multiple takes also gives the directors options when they're editing to change how they're telling the story.
Yes. One of the most fun I have when I'm doing video is like multi-camera. I have been known to have 6 cameras going from different angles, getting different. Like I did a video for Cochise College of one of the instructors throwing a pot, and she was amazed that I had 4 cameras going because I had to get different angles to show what she was doing. Now, could I have done it with one camera, like their video instructor wanted to do, one single camera? Sure, I could have. Would it have been a good video to watch? No, it would have been stagnant. I do that now with the video instructor because we're doing it during the class and I can't set up multiple cameras easily. But the more cameras you have, the more angles you get, and you get to tell a story the way you see it. On stage, you get to move your head as to where you think the emphasis is. In film, you create that. And that's why they're good directors and bad directors. A good director can tell a story well. A bad director can take a good story and ruin it. And we've seen that happen all too often. Okay, what we're going to talk about now are the different modes on the phone. There are similar ones on all the cameras. Okay. Video, we talked about, and you can see on the screen right now. Video is how you get to video camera. Photo is a still image camera. Portrait, which is an iPhone exclusive, I don't think this exists on Android, is a special portrait mode.
I think the Google Pixel phones have a similar.
Oh, they do now? Okay. What portrait mode does is it diffuses the background so that the background is slightly out of focus. Not to the bokeh effect, but out of focus. And now moving all along, we have another one that time lapse, which is time lapse photography, which means you can. Does everybody know what time lapse is, or do I have to explain it? Okay, good. Next is slow motion.
Kind of like the opposites.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite of each other. Time lapse, I can, set it up. We'll take one picture every second, one picture every minute. And then you play it back, and at 30 frames per second, you can take 30 hours and put it into 30 seconds. Slow motion is the exact opposite. Stop action photography. Stop action is not time lapse. Yeah. I love stop action photography. I just wish I could do more of it. I just don't have time. Slow motion is just that. What you do is you take at a very fast frame rate, bring it down, and it slows it down. Built in. Now, cinematic mode, I'll have to show you what that does in a bit. But it's an amazing feature of the iPhone that works better than I was expecting it to. And I've got demonstrations of it. So, there's two more features I want to talk about. If you see these on your phone, spatial. Spatial is a specific for the Apple Vision Pro. It creates a video that in the Apple Vision Pro looks 3D. Right now, it's the only one that can play spatials. That's why you're not seeing it. The other one we talked about is panoramic mode. All of your phones will have panoramic. Use it. If you're not using it now, start using it. You'll be amazed at it.
You can take spatial. What it does is it uses you have to hold it this way, and it uses the two lenses that are side by side, and it basically takes video like we see it with binocular vision, using two lenses, and it has to use the horizontal ones. So when you view it, if you have an Apple Vision Pro, you can play that back, and it gives you a 3D effect. I don't know if you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's more pronounced if you're actually using the Vision Pro, but you can play it back. You can play those videos.
It shows it as a still.
I'm doing one right now to show you what it looks like.
I've never taken one myself.
It just shows up as normal video. You don't get anything special, but in fact, it is combining to give you the 3D effect when you have the Apple Vision Pro. And if you've not seen that demo, go up to the Apple Store at the La Entrada. It's, I think, still up on the second floor. They moved. I don't know if they're moving back downstairs yet. Yeah, no kidding. I like that too. But if you've not seen the Apple Vision Pro demo, please, if you want to see where we're going with VR and AR, you've got to see that demo.
These features start being available like on the 15, 14?
Which ones in particular?
Spatial.
Spatial is brand new to,
I think it was the 15.
15 had spatial. Panoramic has been there since the very early days. Slow-mo and time-lapse been for quite a while. The only thing that's really new is spatial.
Something else, time-lapse, I have on the 7, we have time-lapse slow-mo video photo. There's something here that I didn't have. Portrait I don't have.
Oh yeah, portrait is 14. Yeah, came out with the 14. And portrait mode is just amazing. Yeah. Okay, so moving right along. Aha! Video mode demo. We already talked about that. Okay.
Well, what cinematic actually does is it recognizes faces or in general foreground versus background images or elements. So when you're recording in cinematic and someone is facing the camera, it will focus on that person. And then if they turn away and there's another...
I'm going to show that. I've got a demo of it. Yeah, right now. Okay. Without those, I can't do the video mode examples. Okay. Because one is zoom, one is pan. So let's talk about cinematic mode. And for that,
Hello, we're here in La Jolla, and John is doing an
Where's the sound?
experiment for the Mountain View Computer Users Group. He wants to arrive. Then it should focus on me and the background.
Did you lose the connection to HDMI? Or did the sound output change?
I'm going to,
Something else. It just shows. Yeah, but his system sound output may not be going to the HDMI.
oh, that's why it switched.
There we go.
Hello, we're here in La Jolla, and John is doing an experiment for the Mountain View Computer Users Group. He wants to demonstrate the cinematic mode on the camera. If it works properly, it should be focused on the background behind me until I arrive. Then it should focus on me, and the background is no longer the focal point of the focus. Is it working? Can you tell?
And it does it automatically. I didn't have to do a thing.
And if you got two people in the frame at different distances, it'll change based on who's looking at the camera.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
If I'd have had a second person, I would have done that. Okay, now we're going to talk about something that, oh God, I hope these videos work.
It has been another hour. Do you want to have another break?
Yes, let's take another break. Okay, what we're going to talk about now is we're getting into, yes, I did. Thank you. What we're going to talk about now are called camera actions. And these are based upon actual things that they do when doing film production and video production. And the first one I want to talk about is called pan. And that's a horizontal movement of the camera from a fixed position used to follow the subject. Panning. You follow the subject. Zoom, everyone knows, is that you zoom in on a person or zoom in on a subject. Okay, or you zoom out, zoom in. These are two actions you can do with your phone. You hold the camera like this and you pan. Just like that. And to zoom in, you touch the screen with your two fingers, zoom out, zoom in. Now, that's called live panning and zooming. There's another one called digital panning and zooming. And this is where we go for the difference, like Norm was saying, is digital lens versus optical. The optical is where you're going through the lens and you're changing the distance of the lens to the camera backplane. Digital means you've taken it and you're digitally going in on it. Digital is always lower quality than optical. It is very difficult on your phones to control which it's going to use. Yes. On the iPhone, it will do it automatically. Or you can force it to go not use it automatically. It'll change the lenses and when it needs to. Or you can specify it by saying, I want you to use that lens. And then you can I need to show you this one because it is very complicated to explain.
Mm-hmm. And it's limited to the number of lenses that are available on the particular model phone you have.
Okay, we're in video right now. Okay, you see the four black dots? That's wide angle, standard, little telephoto, major telephoto. That's optical. I am switching camera lenses. Now, within each of these, I can go in and out. That's digital. When it needs to switch, it switches. In 4K, because I don't lose as many pixels in 4K. So if I need to go back, like let's say I just shoot in standard modes, okay? And I need to zoom in here, rather than doing it on the camera, I'll do it in post-production. That way I can control it, because doing it here sometimes is difficult. Now, when I'm doing it like this, I have a lot more control. But I prefer doing it in post-production, because in post-production, I have a lot more control and it's a lot smoother. But I will show you examples. Yes. So now, here's an example of zooming. This is a handheld zoom and panning. Now, combining those is okay, but you don't want to do it at the same time. That gets very complicated. So you do a zoom and then a pan, or a pan then a zoom, but don't do a zoom and pan at the same time. You can do that if you got the proper equipment. It is very difficult to do on the phone well. Yes. But in post-production, it's easy to do. So, and here's a zoom in example. And then I do a slow pan. Now, about panning. The biggest mistake that amateurs make is you pan too fast. Slow it down. I see people going out there doing, oh my God. And when you go in and play it back, you'll get dizzy. You need to slow down, very slow. And the first couple times you do it, play it back immediately so you can see, did I get what I want? Am I too fast? Now, if you do go too fast and you got good editing software, you can fix it. But you have to have good editing software. Now, there are some that are free that can do that. We'll talk about that in a bit. Now, the next ones we're going to talk about are dolly and Steadicam. Dolly is where you move the whole camera forward or backwards smoothly. On a phone, you use your feet. Okay? Some people are under the impression that you have to stand still when you're shooting video. Now, granted, you run into the next problem, which is Steadicam or gimbal movement. That's where you hold the camera steady while moving. It holds it, so when you do a dolly effect, you don't get vibration. It's a stabilization mode. It works really well, especially when you don't realize you have it turned on by default and all of your stuff looks stable. Okay? Here's a dolly example. I am walking on the sidewalk. I've got my camera up on a selfie stick, and I'm just walking above the heads of the people so we can see the beach. Okay? So that's a dolly effect. This is Steadicam. Notice how smooth it is. And I'm walking very fast.
Around La Jolla.
On your Mac and iOS, you have iMovie. It's good, but not great. It can do almost everything that I've talked about today. I don't remember if you can speed up or slow down a clip. Okay. And Windows, you got Movie Maker. It was Windows' answer to iMovie, and it's good. You know, for simple amateur productions, it's good. Now, we're going to talk about two, I'm putting it out of order. Final Cut, well, actually, all three together. Final Cut Pro, DaVinci Resolve, and Adobe Premiere. They're available for all platforms. Well, Final Cut for Mac OS and iOS. DaVinci Resolve and Adobe Premiere are everything. Linux, Windows, Mac. There's going to be an iOS version sometime this next year. At least that's what Adobe keeps promising.
Actually, DaVinci Resolve is already on you can get it on your iPad, I think.
Really? iPad, yeah. Okay. Now, Final Cut Pro runs $295. Adobe Premiere runs $695 or a subscription. And the subscription is $40 a month, but that includes all Adobe software. DaVinci Resolve is free.
Yeah. And it's pretty powerful stuff.
And it's pretty good too.
Oh, yes. Now, which is the best one to use is really a big, I mean, if you want to get a bunch of videographers together and bring up the topic of which is the best to use, and it'll be a knockdown, drag out war. I like Final Cut Pro because of its versatility, ease of use, and the magnetic timeline. Next to that, DaVinci Resolve. I've had real good luck with that. Barry, you may want to consider that one. It is like Adobe Premiere.
I have it.
Its user interface.
I have it. I just haven't
okay.
played with it much. Yeah.
Adobe Premiere is my least favorite. It's hard to use. It's very difficult. It doesn't let you do what you want to do. You have to do it the way Adobe wants you to do it. And I just don't like it. Okay.
Plus, it's expensive if you're not invested in Adobe
yeah,
already.
I mean, it's very expensive software. Now, is this all of them? Absolutely not. There are hundreds of them. Hundreds. And are they any good? Some are, some aren't. Yeah. And I personally, I like Final Cut Pro. I mean, I can gotten so good at Final Cut Pro, I can put videos together in a matter of minutes. Now, do I know everything about it? No. Steps to editing your video. Okay. This is my recommendation. Okay. Select your clips. Go through and identify all your clips. Place them on a timeline. Add B-roll if talking heads, or B-roll if you think it's necessary. Go in, correct scale, position, and color. Now, I put color in here, and in video, it's called color grading. And yes and no. Some recommend doing color grading at the very end, after you've done everything else. I like to do it as I'm going along and making sure everything matches. Now, one nice thing about using a single camera is you never have to worry about matching color grading. In the professional world where they have like 10 different cameras they're using, every one of them has got a different color grading scheme. And you spend hours getting them to match. If, on the other hand, you're only using a Nikon and iPhones, it's not that difficult. Because the Nikon's color grading scheme is almost identical to the iPhone's. I don't know if that was intentional or by accident, but I do know for Canon is slightly different. And you have to spend more time color grading with a Canon than an iPhone. Next, you go in and add transitions. And please, yes, there are hundreds of transitions available. Use one or two of the special ones and concentrate on just simple blurs and dissolves to transition. And I'll show you what that means in a bit. Now, I'm not demoing this because this is not a video editing. This is just on using a camera. And then go in sound effects and music. Very important part of video. a sound effect library, which is one of the things I like about Final Cut Pro. It comes with a very robust sound effects library and a very robust music. But I still use. Okay, and then you export it, which brings us, here is an example of what you can do.
Around La Jolla.
You didn't put credits
that's-
on it. You didn't have credits at the
Okay.
end.
Yeah, I know. Sharing with your family and friends. Okay, first off, movie files are huge. The format, try and use H.264 or MP4. That refers to the same standard. It's a heavily compressed but excellent quality. Avoid .mov and .avi. MOV generates gigantic files. AVI is crap. It's just pure and simple.
Tell us how you really feel, Johnny. If you save a file as an MP4, it's using the H.264.
It's the same. Yeah, that's the same format. Okay. Now, emailing can be very difficult to send video. Cloud sharing is a lot easier, either using iCloud, OneDrive, Dropbox. Your best option is YouTube. Granted, you lose some quality, but not much. If you put it up in HD format, the quality is good. Now, you can have a problem with copyright issues with music. If you use a public YouTube video with copyrighted music, they'll flag it. If you make it private, they won't. And the community standard rules with YouTube sometimes are not very clear. You'll get flagged. I put one up of Don Watkins throwing a pot, and it got flagged. I said, it does not meet community standards. I mean, there was no profanity at all. There was no music. It was of a guy, 30 minutes, demonstrating throwing a pot, and they flagged it. So I retorted, and it got removed. So
Yeah, you can challenge those.
here's my okay. Plan your video, composition, understanding your iPhone's video camera, what all the nooks and crannies and dials and gadgets are for. And we talked about the controls. And we talked about recording high quality video, camera angles, then editing the videos, camera actions rather, not angles, actions, camera actions. We talked about pan, zoom, dolly, Steadicam. Those are the 4 major ones. There are more, by the way. Editing your videos, yes, you can use raw video. You're a lot better off by learning how to use an editor. The iMovie editor and Movie Maker are pretty good. You can do some really nice things. As a matter of fact, iMovie has an automated system where you can just drop a video in it, or if I remember correctly, you can specify video clips and it'll put it together for you.
Magic Movie. I think they call it
Okay.
Magic Movie.
And sharing videos. Okay, are there any questions? Then we'll see you next month on May 12th, Making Music. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful weekend.